Hello, everyone. Mark Yonley, founder and artistic director of Chicago Tap Theater, back with the next episode of the Tea on Tap. Today we have a fun one for you.
Lace your shoes, ball change for landmark. Yeah, least got the tea on tap. CT square is where it's at, my love. Nobody near us to see us or hear us. No friends or relations or weekend vacations. We won't have it known, dear, the be on the telephone, my dear.
Today I'm super excited to announce our guest, the Max Pollak, master of body percussion, Afro-Cuban rhythms, and all-around tap dance phenom. I've been lucky enough to know this gentleman for a good 20, 30 years, and he is truly one of the greats as well as one of the true intellectuals of the tap community. He is somebody that I remember quite well the very first time I ever met him, because he made a huge impression at the tap festival I was at. I was at the Portland Tap Festival, and Max showed up, and I remember thinking, who is this guy that can do like everything in every class? Any class he was in, he just got it. So without further ado, very proud and excited to welcome one of the true greats, Mr. Max Pollak.
Hello.
Hello.
Donnelly. Good to see you, brother.
Oh, good to see you. Straight from Vienna.
Indeed, yes. Straight from
Yes.
the small apartment outside of Vienna where I grew up. Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
wow. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
Do you mind giving people a quick look around, just kind of the room that you're in, and
Okay.
giving everybody a little context for where you... So you're outside Vienna. Go ahead.
This is just a small room. Used to be my parents' bedroom in the apartment where I grew up, and I'll give you the view outside the window so you get a little bit of context.
Ah,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's picture perfect.
So these are the window, the beginning of the Vienna woods. We're about 15 miles outside of Vienna. This used to be the 24th district of Vienna, but now it's part of Lower Austria, actually. So it's not part of Vienna proper anymore, but it's very close.
Wow,
So
it looks like an absolutely lovely place to grow up, I have to say.
it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's very safe, very clean. And yes, lots of culture. I will definitely say that. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it is 90 degrees and storming here in Chicago.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
We had almost fall weather yesterday.
wow.
I flew in yesterday and it was kind of chilly. It was only like 60 or something.
Oh, wow.
Raining, so it was very Viennese actually. Because Vienna is not exactly a place where you have a lot of sunshine. So I felt very like normal, and I guess I'm back in Vienna. It's gray and rainy. However, it's great to be home, and
Yeah.
in your theme of your interview of this show, I would say you are asking for a mug of something to drink, right? So
That is correct.
I have, this is one of my favorite things to drink out of. I have them in several different sizes, but I like them because here in Austria, you buy mustard in these glasses. And then when you're done with the mustard, usually you wash them out and you keep them, and they are fantastic beer glasses as well. And in it,
Phenomenal.
yeah, at this moment, there's just water in it, but usually I also drink, my sister makes elderberry syrup from elderberry flowers, and that is fragrant and so perfect and just a little bit sweet. That's my favorite thing to drink. And when I get home, usually the first thing I do is I go to the kitchen and I fill my glass with water. Just the tap water here is the best tap water in the world. for me.
Mm. I love it. Yeah,
It's
of course,
so good,
of course.
so clean, and it tastes so perfect. So anyway, here's my case for Austrian mountain water.
Well, Prost.
Cheers, both.
So you are I'm thinking you might be the fifth New Yorker I have interviewed since we've started that is not currently in New York.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's not necessarily by choice at this point, but
I'm aware.
you know, but also, I'm always happy to be here. But I've been in New York this entire quarantine COVID. Otherwise,
wow, it's a tough time.
It definitely is.
Tough time.
It definitely is. It definitely is. Yeah.
On the other hand, New York right now is one of the safest places in America.
Yes.
Number-wise, they are really following directions. They flatten the curve. They've had multiple days without any deaths. We aren't there yet, but we've been also on a good trajectory here in Chicago.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Let's just hope and pray that the rest of the country will start realizing what's happening and just
without a doubt
do what needs to be done. There's really only one way until we have some vaccine or something. We just have to kind of stay away from each other, mostly, not totally. And I have been social a little bit. I've seen people wearing my mask. I've hung out, in the park at a distance. I've heard concerts where the band was distanced. They're on the street corner, very New York, but
I love it.
And you can enjoy it live. You can see it live. It doesn't mean life has ended. Life has just changed a little bit.
No,
and
that's right.
Think, use your noodle, and we can get through this, and and music and dancing and culture will get us through it. I will say this kind of thing, like what you're doing, interviewing, talking to people, getting the energy flow or continuing the energy flow and continuing the conversation is one of the main things that's kept me, happy or, just rolling, because if we
engaged,
if we stop, we wilt, so
without a doubt.
Yeah, we need to talk to each other. We need to appreciate each other. Sometimes we just need to hold each other's hands virtually. It's very important.
Isn't that the truth?
We're all just human. We're all afraid. We're all in this for the first time. The whole planet. And but we will march forward, and we will look at each other, and we will talk to each other, and we will keep creating things. We will keep creating music and poetry and all that. We will have to use the medium that is available, the medium that's possible and not dangerous, so that's what we're doing. I think that's really, and it's commendable that you're doing something because you're putting out energy in the universe.
Well, thank you. Well, I could not do any of it without people like you that agree to participate.
Of course.
So
definitely, yeah.
And we are actually, I'll talk about this at the very end, but we are preparing a show right now.
Cool.
A week from today, we are doing a virtual show.
Awesome.
From a real theater with live band. We will be wearing masks the entire time. We are keeping 6 feet apart from each other. We have very strict, you should see the amount of rules and regulations that we have written out.
Of course.
Because we are not in any way, shape, or form looking to,
of course,
try to be cute about this. No, we are taking it very seriously.
Yeah.
But we do believe that, we need. I felt that my dancers needed an opportunity to dance.
Yes.
For their sanity and their emotional health.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I felt like there had to be a way to do it safely. So we're, like I say, I think the thing for me was I just missed really being in a theater, and I was lucky that one of the historic, beautiful local theaters agreed to work with us and make it possible.
That's great.
Because there'll be no audience, so there's no guarantee of revenue.
Sure.
But we'll see.
Nice.
I'll be sending you a link to check it out next Sunday, so you'll have to let me know what you think. So Max, I always start all of these interviews the same. I always ask people what their first experience that they remember
Hmm.
with tap dance, either as a viewer or a practitioner or a student. Tell us about that.
Okay. It happened just about 20 feet from here, actually,
Wow,
literally.
I love it.
Of my parents' black and white TV set, Fred Astaire came on the screen, and boom, there I went. You know, I was
Yeah,
5, and that's really it. And everything else developed from there. It was just a fascination it was a fascination, of course, with film, with acting, with tap dancing, definitely, with jazz
yeah,
music for sure, with elegance, all these things. And I just started following it, and then I started. I will say, that concerning tap dance, this is a third world country, Austria. You know, we,
oh, wow.
concerning tap dancing, there is not much happening here. You know, and whatever happens gets here last because there are only 3, 4 professional tap dancers in this country. There's a tiny scene. There's a scene, but it's very, very small, and
Yeah,
there's hardly anything happening. You know, I will try to make more things happen in the future. I've done things before, and I've done my own tiny little seminar here in the mountains, which is something that I definitely will
mm,
continue. The house that I have here in the mountains is sort of where my soul lives, and it's a
mm,
place that I really wish to share with people because it's a place like no other, and it has a spiritual energy that I mean, I know other people, other places have energy like that, but
yeah.
my place is my place. And I really enjoyed the couple of times that I've done my little seminar workshop. Was very, very, very enjoyable and very special for me and for everybody else. So I will continue to do that. And I have many musician friends in Austria because I started playing music professionally as a teenager here in Vienna. And because of my theater studies and being an actor, but also being a jazz musician from the get-go here in Austria, I have a lot of very, 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 very high-level music uh, colleagues and friends here who are
That's
playing
awesome.
at the tip-top level in classical ensembles. I know a couple of the guys from the Vienna Philharmonic. Uh,
Ooh,
uh,
okay.
so in the classical world, I have a lot of friends,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of friends in the jazz world. The jazz world is also very intense here, very good, very small, not many people, but they're very good. And then there's a very, very interesting burgeoning scene of Austrian, let's call it new Austrian sound of music. Yeah, it actually
Wow.
has a term attached to it. NASOM, New Austrian Sound of Music. It's basically new Austrian folk music, new Austrian folklore that is
Mm,
produced and composed and researched and revived by young Austrian and international musicians of the highest quality. So this started about 15 years ago, and it was
mm,
paired with an initiative from the government, from the Austrian government, to revive Austrian folklore. And the people who are in this, I would want to call it wave because it is, are very, very capable musicians on many, many different instruments who are well versed and well trained in classical music. They know
mm.
play jazz, they know and play funk, video, hip hop, all kinds of things, but
Wow.
also love and research Austrian folklore. And they literally climb the mountains and go into the valleys where the last 96-year-old man or woman sits who remembers the song of blah, blah, blah. And they go there, they write it down, they record it, they
Mm,
ask them, how do you do this? What does this sound like? And then they perform it and to keep it alive. And then they write things in the same style to try to bring this back into the mainstream. And this is a very, very interesting thing to me that I am going to continue working on and doing projects with here in Austria and
that
all
is fascinating.
in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So real quick, I want to get back to this. So if you couldn't really find much tap dance in Austria, where did you go? How did you find somebody in Europe that you could connect with that would in fact be able to feed this burgeoning desire to tap dance and create music with your feet?
Well, it indeed actually found me. I have to say. I was looking around and there was really barely anything. There was barely any instruction. And the teachers I found, they were lovely and friendly and great to me and very generous, but they just didn't have much information. Yeah. Because this was Austria and it wasn't even England, you know. So they did what they could with the little information they had. And but then I was lucky that Carnell Lyons came to Vienna to do workshops. And one of my teachers, who was super generous and nice to me, said, Max, you need to take class with this man because he is like the real deal. You need to check this out. And that's when I was 14. And that was my first contact with my first true and hugely important mentor, Carnell Lyons.
It's interesting. You're the second person to talk about Carnell.
Oh.
I interviewed Josh Hilberman, and Josh talked a bit about his experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was lucky enough, I only took from Carnell once, but it was that 2-week Portland Tap Festival with Kurt and Klaus acting kind of as his feet, kind of helping out.
Yeah, yeah. The last time.
And yeah, he made an impression. I'm sorry?
That was just before he passed away, I think.
It was.
Yeah.
And, you know, luckily enough, he went straight from Portland to Kansas City, which was his hometown.
Yes.
Which was my hometown.
Right.
So we actually ended up sharing an airplane back to Kansas City. And he came and saw me perform in Kansas City. He was a real, as you know, I mean, he was a real gentleman. And
yes, absolutely.
No,
and really supportive. Yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
He was like Buster Brown. When he realized that you were serious about keeping his expression, his form of art alive, he would do anything to help you, you know?
Yes.
And he was definitely very, very supportive to me. I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. It's plain and simple.
You know, I smile right now, kind of a hot step that I see a lot of the younger teachers and kids pulling off lately is people love firecrackers right now. And every time I see a firecracker, it makes me think of Carnell. Because he was the first person. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Carnell taught that. Yeah, that's where I learned that.
Yeah, he was the first one that ever taught it. In fact, he called it a Kansas City firecracker.
Okay.
And when I teach it, I always call it that because, of course, you know, I got a little hometown pride.
For sure. Sure.
Yeah. But he's also the reason I never, ever, ever call that step a paradiddle. I always call it a paddle and roll.
Oh, I would never call that a paradiddle. That's just wrong terminology because a paradiddle is
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I could not agree more.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
So you worked with Carnell in Europe while you were still a teenager, and then what?
He made me his assistant. I worked with him as assistant every time he was in town because I spoke good English already back then, so I was translating, and I picked up the steps quickly, and then I would slow them down for him. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
And
then when did you decide to actually come to America?
Sorry.
No, go ahead. What was that? No, please. What was that?
He gave me videotapes. He gave me footage. You know, and I had not ever seen any other black tap dancer before because I grew up in Vienna. You know, I hadn't even seen a black man before Carnell. Okay, that's like, you know, that was just the reality. And so he hands me this incredible footage with, you know, Ralph Brown, Honey Coles, you know, Sammy Davis, Gregory Hines, Buster Brown, you know, all these amazing people were on there. And I had never seen any of them, you know, and that really blew my mind, you know, and then it was pretty much like, okay, well, now I know what I got to do, you know. So that was for sure. And I was, at the same time, I was playing drum set, sort of almost disconnected from that. And I was getting into swing and bebop, you know, so I was studying Charlie Parker. And then Carnell tells me, oh, yeah, Bird. Yeah, he grew up on my street. We sat in high school together. Yeah. Carnell.
I love it.
Grew up on the same street. They went to the same high school. And they used to go busking downtown Kansas City. Bird would play clarinet and Carnell would tap dance. So that made Charlie Parker a whole new, incredibly important person or figure in my life, because I knew somebody who knew Charlie Parker, like personally.
Yeah.
You know, so that changed the way I looked at jazz, you know, because I realized, wow, I'm really talking to living history when I was talking to Carnell. You know, like I could touch history. And that, you know, at age 15, 16, that was really, really important, you know. Can
I just stop and point out how hip that is? I don't know that there's, I mean, nowadays maybe because there's more kids kind of in the tap community, but for, you know, a teenager to really be hip to Charlie Parker and to Miles Davis and to American tap dancers growing up in Europe, let alone, I mean, most American teenagers, let's be honest, don't know anything about American jazz music.
No.
You know, the fact that there you are, a teenager in Europe, loving American jazz music and American tap dance. I mean, that is hip as can be. That's really cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, I won't say that I grew up surrounded by jazz. You know, I just fell in love with it. And there were hardly any other people far and wide who were into jazz. I had to really search for them. You know, I was the freak in school for sure. I was the guy who loved jazz. Like who would love jazz? They were all into like Kiss and David Bowie, who, you know, I love too. But yeah, I was like Louis Armstrong, man, you know. So
I love it.
I was definitely the weirdo for a long time. But I was able to turn some other people onto it, which is good. And then I found some like-minded teenagers who played with me in a band, and we founded the first ever New Orleans second line marching band in Vienna. And that was definitely another really important formative experience for me, to play real New Orleans music. And we were listening to tons of records to learn how to play this stuff, you know. And we would listen over and over again to learn the licks and to learn the tunes, to learn how the interaction works, what the sounds were, you know, the timbre, the textures and things. So that was my first sort of like deep dive into a jazz realm, you know, was New Orleans. And I'm glad it was, because, you know, that is very spiritually charged also. We learned how to play funerals. So when I was 16, 15, 16, 17, 18, I played quite a lot of funerals. That was like almost lucrative. You know, once people found out that we were doing that, and people heard us, you know, and heard the blues, but then also the joy, they realized, wow, this is really cool. What is this? And then we would explain, well, this is how people bury their loved ones in New Orleans. You know, this is a Black tradition, comes from Africa, rhythm, spirituality, the ground, heaven, you know, all these things. You know, so I was confronted or dealing with that as a teenager, and I'm glad I was, because it explained things to me as I went on. Things made more sense to me, you know. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't, I wouldn't say that I was surrounded by jazz music here. Not originally, you know. That was my choice. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's awesome. So then what brought you, because you worked with Carnell and eventually you make your way to America. When did that happen and how did that happen?
That was basically on a vacation that I took. I was already working as a musical theater actor in Vienna at this point, and I was in a long-running show, and the long-running show took a break, which is a very un-American thing, but in Vienna that can happen. So we had like a paid vacation. Dig it? That's Europe for you, paid vacation. And on the paid vacation, I was able to go to New York because I had some friends there that who had invited me. And I spent 2 weeks in New York and hanging out with my friend at his apartment in the East Village. He handed me Backstage magazine. And he said, just look through this, Max. You should go to an audition while you're here. It doesn't matter. Just go. And I flipped through the pages, and there it was. Manhattan Tap, Heather Cornell, looking for a capable tap dance soloist with strong technique and improvisational capabilities. And I'm like, well, she's looking for me, so I better go.
Yes, I love it.
I went to this audition, and long story short, Heather ended up hiring me, and I came to New York, and this was in 1991. So I just dated mine. Um, but,
That's all right.
yeah. So, and that was a really important point in my life for sure. So I came and Heather introduced me to everybody on the tap scene. I met Gregory Hines, like almost fresh out of the gate. And she introduced me to Buster, to Diane Walker. I got to work with all these people, which was, like invaluable as a human being and as an artist and everything. And then, I was lucky to be in New York at a time where a lot of people were still alive, Jimmy Sly, Buster, Chuck Green, Honey Coles was still alive when I arrived. He passed on just a few months after I arrived. But so many, Harriet Brown, Tina Pratt's still with us, thank God. But I met Tina, of course, also, and Face Roberts. Cookie was gone already, but who else? Face Roberts, Bubba Gaines. I got to meet Bubba.
Oh,
so it was really cool, and we got to do those great jam sessions at La Cave, where Jimmy was hosting, and then my friend Tamango started a jam session at this place, Diana's. I don't know. Did you ever come to Diana's?
Nope.
No. Okay.
I had spent very little time in New York, I have to admit. I would go and I'd visit, and I've taught in New York, and my company's done a couple little things there, but in the 90s, I was not lucky enough to spend time in New York hardly. I was trying to make it in Kansas City as a jazz dancer, as a tap dancer working in jazz clubs.
Cool. Yeah.
And then I was still in college up until I graduated college in '99.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of my 90s was primarily college and going to gigs and jazz clubs.
Right. Well, that's the right way to learn it. That's the right way to do it.
It's one way to learn it. I was lucky enough to meet a lot of those people you mentioned and take from them at festivals, but there were a lot of people that didn't teach at the festivals. So, I never got to meet Chuck Green, which I would have, watching, he's one of my favorite people to watch, period.
Yeah.
So I would have given anything.
He was also a trip to hang out with, man.
I bet.
The best, man. He was so great. Yeah.
And it's worth noting the people you were dancing with in Manhattan Tap at that time was quite, it's fun. Heather very kindly gave me permission to show a couple pieces of her choreography to a choreography tap intensive that I was teaching. And I was looking at all the people on stage, and I could name everyone on there because they were all people that I know and look up to. And you must have danced, at least for a part of your time, with Jeannie, correct?
Oh, long time. Yeah. Jeannie was there when I arrived. Jeannie was there when I arrived, and she was there when I left. We left at the same time, basically, in like 97, I think. Yeah. But Jeannie and I were basically in Manhattan Tap the entire time together. Yeah.
For my money, she is still maybe my very favorite tap performer I've ever seen.
She's amazing.
Live.
She's a joy to be on stage with. Yeah.
She puts her presence.
Yeah, she's great, and she's just a person to be around and to tour with. Super reliable, and we had a great time. We had a great time touring together. It was, always, not always easy, but it was always great.
Yeah. So tell me this: with the amazing people you got to study with and work with, is there anything that one of your teachers or mentors said to you that still sticks with you, and that you still that kind of rings in your head before you go out and teach or perform?
Yeah, Jimmy Slide was one for those like super precious one-liners and everything, and he would always say, don't give it all away, keep some for yourself. That's one thing he would say. And just like, and then, you know, he would always, when we talk about having any issues or trouble or, you know, problems, he's like, just keep hitting, just keep going, you know. That was one of his things. And, you know, one thing that I use a lot, or that I tell students a lot when they get frustrated, you know, if you haven't danced, if you haven't fallen, you haven't danced, or you haven't tried hard enough, you know?
Yeah.
So Jimmy, he had various ways of expressing that, you know, but yeah, if you haven't danced, if you haven't fallen, you know, he would say that often. Like, you got to take that risk. If you don't take that risk, you'll never know, you know. And I'm trying to remember. Well, one important thing that I usually share with friends and students is, this was not from a tap dancer, but I will say it's very valuable life what's the word?
Advice.
Thank you. Yeah. My friend and mentor, Ciro Baptista from Brazil, Brazilian percussionist, star percussionist. I worked with him for like a decade, more than a decade, playing drums and percussion and dancing in his group called Beat the Donkey. And Ciro, one time, when I was really still a little too hard on myself and too serious, and I couldn't take, I took myself way too seriously. That was the problem, really. And one day after a show, I was punching a wall because I was angry at myself. He saw me do that, and he came up to me and like said, "Man, what are you doing, man? Don't hurt yourself. What's wrong?" And I said, to, you know, "Oh, my solo was terrible, and I should have done this, and I wanted to do that." And he's like, "Max, look. So your solo sucked today. That's okay. That's one less time it's gonna suck in the future."
Beautiful.
That, and that changed my life. It totally changed my life. You know, just that little bit of a picture, like, oh, okay. You know, it immediately put a smile on my face. And then I started not taking myself too seriously, because what's the point, you know? And the more you can laugh at yourself, the more the audience will be on your side, you know?
Yeah.
And Ciro is a master of that. You know, he's, yeah. Hi, Andrea. Dree just said, "Love that story, Max." I tell that to everybody. It's just brilliant. And I think it's very helpful for many people who tend to be perfectionist and want to just like, it's got to be this. Like, yeah, get there. Just don't be too hard on yourself. Whatever you do today is what you did today. And tomorrow it's going to be better and different. And, you know, like, just let it go. You got to let it go. So,
I love that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Absolutely.
So one of the things I want to make sure to talk about with the time that we have, and it's one of the things that I've always been so fascinated by with you specifically in the tap community. To me, you represent this kind of global inclusive ideal of art where, you know, you're Austrian born, fall in love with an American art form, tap dance, move to America, become a master practitioner of it, and then on top of that, end up falling in love with Afro-Cuban music and Afro-Cuban rhythms and becoming a true master of that, and then kind of integrating all of these and then adding body percussion on top of it. I guess, you know, what is it about? How is it that you view the world? That's a big question. I get that. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is, what is the philosophy that propels you to take this kind of global view of the world, where you really are comfortable falling in love with different things from different countries and then finding ways to synthesize them and bring them together in new ways? Like, what is it? Something about your upbringing that kind of gave you that outlook, or?
Yes. I guess number one would be just the fact that I was lucky to be growing up in a place that is full of culture, and that is, you know, for all intents and purposes, the source of a lot of great culture.
Yeah.
and an ancient history of that, which is great. You know, uh, that's an amazing feeling to have at your back, first of all.
Yeah.
I was always interested in many different things. I was always interested in history and archaeology, so I was a big museum buff. So looking at things that are strange and new to me was always exciting, you know, and learning about them. Um, and then, you know, when I was growing up and got into jazz as a teenager, I was just like, I was eating books. I was literally like eating and sleeping books about jazz history, all the biographies by all the greats, and then, you know, books about the history, all this stuff. And, you know, I found this fascination with people like Thelonious Monk and Charlie Parker and Miles Davis and Louis Armstrong, who created things, who created a sound and a voice for themselves that nobody had ever heard before. And they were so able to put themselves through their instrument that anybody who heard them play two notes knew exactly who was playing immediately. That fascinated me from the very, very get-go. And I always wanted to be like that. I always wanted to be able to speak as truly as I can from my core, you know? So I didn't have to, I didn't want to lie to people because I knew that would not be me. And, you know, I wanted to be authentically me. And I guess, you know, learning and studying different things from different cultures is something that I honestly and sincerely love. And if I love it, it's going to be in here and it's going to come out, you know. So whatever I really get into, I study, ends up integrated into my work, you know. And it was with jazz, it was that, with music, with tap dancing, it was that, eventually with Afro-Cuban music, Brazilian, you know, whatever I love, I try to find out as much as I can, and then somehow it'll come back out, you know. And also, when I'm fascinated about something, I feel like I want to share this fascination with people, you know. Like, you know, I love to listen to Greek music, so I try to turn people on to, like, have you checked this out? Have you heard about this style and or this rhythm or whatever? Because I find it fascinating, and it enriches my life. It enriches my life. It makes me happier, and I feel like every time I learn something about a different culture, different country, or a different person, even, I know a little bit more about the universe. You know, it's a tiny little increment, but I feel like, okay, I've seen another tiny little facet of this beautiful, brilliant diamond that is existence, you know. And the more I can share with people, the happier it makes me, because then when they hear it, they understand more about it and they can appreciate it more, and then they will share it, you know. To me, the whole life is billiards, you know. You hit with your cue, you hit a ball, and that hits the next ball, da, 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 and the way you serve it is also the way it'll come back. That's another thing. That's like a philosophical truth. You know, I like to treat people the way I would like to be treated. So, and, you know, knowing and spending a lot of time with Buster Brown, that was one of those things. You know, he didn't usually say that, but you could just tell from the way he was acting that that's what it was. Like, there's no reason to treat people badly, because why? You know, because eventually they would just treat you badly. You know, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. You know, let's be friendly and let's be positive, and we can get along. We can figure it out. You know, he was one of those people.
So I'm going to jump a little bit to 5 years ago, because you accomplished something that really kind of blew my mind. You know, I've heard many people attempt to record taps purely as an aural medium, right? Purely to be heard, not to be seen. And I've been recorded. I've been on a few people's albums, and I've never been really completely happy with how they mic'd me or made my feet sound.
Hmm.
And when you told me that you were going to make an album, I think I might have been a little skeptical at first because I thought, boy, it's so hard to make tap meaningful and engaging orally. And I think generally, most often, it's a technology issue, right? It's not a limitation of the art. It's that people don't really know how to set up the board correctly and the mics and how many mics. And so then I heard your final product, which is called Roomba Tap, correct?
Hmm. Correct, yeah.
And I was blown away. It was woody, right? It was organic and woody, and it had tonal variation and it had dynamic variation. I mean, it literally, the first time I heard it, I thought it was the best recording of tap I'd ever heard.
Thank you.
Do you mind talking a little bit about that album and about maybe anything you discovered in the process of recording tap that might assist other people that might be interested in doing something similar?
Yeah. The first thing I will say is resonance. Resonance, resonance, resonance. That's going to make the difference. I insisted on tap dancing on a box. Box, B-O-X. Without a box, you will not get a tap sound that you really like. You will get a tap sound that is maybe okay, but a really good tap sound that represents what tap can actually be from the musical point of view, unless you have air underneath your board and contained air, not just a board with some air, but a box. Yeah, I'll say it again, a box. You record tap dancing, you need a box. A board is not enough. A board will give you okay beginner sound, average. If you want great tap sound, you need a box. There's no two ways about it. You need a box with an opening, just like a guitar has an opening for the sound to come out. Because if you don't have an opening, the sound stays in. Because the sound is created on the inside, but in order to record it well, it needs an opening where it comes out, and you need to place the mic in the right place, And the mic placement, we can spend another 7 hours talking about that. So we're not going to do that. But I'm just saying, if you have a box, and it doesn't need to be a big box, yeah? If it's just this high, you're good, yeah? But make it a box. Make it a box. Yeah. Have one opening, not 8, 1.
Yeah.
Focus, yeah? Because the sound wave will come out there, yeah? That's why violins have 2 small F holes, not a gigantic or not 13, yeah? Violins wouldn't sound good. Tap floors also don't sound good that way, yeah? So that's the key issue. And then you need various mics of various frequency responses. That's an important technical term everybody needs to know. Frequency response is key to understanding what mic does what. Imagine a drum set needs a bass drum mic for the low frequency. It needs a snare drum mic for the powerful middle frequency and high frequencies, and then it needs mics for each tom-tom, and it needs an overhead mic for the cymbals. So all those are different kinds of mics. It's the same with tap dancing. You need a bass drum mic for tap dancing, or a low frequency response mic. You need a snare drum mic for the upper side of your board, for the sort of snare drum kind of sound, for the response and the attack, what's not accumulation? What's the word? I'm having word finding problems because I'm jet lagged.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's fascinating though. And
then you need something overhead, or in my case, I need a body percussion mic. That needs to be about, like in this area for the chest and stuff. And then you need a room mic. Room mic. What does that record? It records the room, not the box, the room. So I gave a couple of very important secrets for this whole thing now. Bass drum, snare drum, hi-hat, or bass drum, snare drum, cymbals. You need the 3 different frequency responses, because that'll give you a round sound, and then you can mix the thing. Yeah.
Right.
Then you can mix it. And mixing is key. You need somebody who can really mix, and you need somebody who's willing to take the time to start understanding how tap dance works. That's another thing. You need somebody who has the patience and the will to make this happen, because tap dancing is not a very common instrument to be recorded. So there are about 0.5 people out there who know how to record tap dancing. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
because the engineers don't know. The tap
Without a
dancers,
doubt.
a very few know how, and they need an engineer who knows how. So that's why I'm saying 0.5. I'm zero point 0.5,
Yeah.
and an engineer who's 0.5. That together create one entity who knows how to record tap dancing and make it happen. Huh?
Yes.
It
Well,
has
we have a similar, we have a similar problem when we tour, right? How many sound designers and venues
exactly.
have amplified tap before for the stage,
Yeah.
right? So we're actually hoping to eventually be able to get a grant to just pay for a mic array that we tour with.
Nice. Yeah.
So we're not at the mercy of what the venue has. We really can show up and say,
Yeah.
here's what to use.
Bring your
We already give directions on how to use them, but
Right.
every theater has a different kind of collection. Quick hello to Barbara Duffy there. Hey, Barbara, good to
Hi,
see
Barbara.
you.
Yeah, there are a couple of people that I saw going by. Hi, Barbara. And I think Harriet was here. Harriet from London was here. Hi, Harriet. Andrea Torres. Yeah, I have to scroll through every. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been making a point to talk about for the past 6 or 7 weeks is the intersection of this elevated movement in America and what I think is truly becoming a global movement.
Oh, yeah.
For social justice, racial justice.
Also,
in America, certainly the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things that I'm really engaged in and that I want to make a point to talk to everybody I interview about is, I always believe that the way that we can contribute the best to a movement is to bring our unique abilities, interests, skill sets to helping to further the movement. So I guess my question is, knowing that we're tap dancers, most of the people that are watching are probably tap dancers, and my mom.
Hi, Mom.
So, she was very excited I was interviewing you, by the way.
Great, thanks.
So what role can tap dancers play within this movement? And then I'm going to follow that up with a separate question, which is, what responsibility do white tap dancers have to be good, responsible members of this Black art form?
Sure. Well, it is obviously really important for anybody who is a practitioner of a African American or African anything art form to know the history. I've had this conversation in Cuba with white Cubans who are great rumberos, because there are great rumberos of white skin color in Cuba that are very well respected. But they all know the history and they all work with each other, So research, number one thing, history knowledge and sharing is also super important. When you teach, always make the point to explain who were the people who created this tradition, who were the most important practitioners of this tradition, of these styles. And you definitely, especially as a white tap dancer, you need to bring up the whole Fred Astaire, and not the Nicholas brothers. Why? We need to talk about that. And we say that often. And one thing that's tricky is because we know it and we know it and we've talked about it and read about it and heard about it so much. To us, it's like, well, of course we know this. It's sort of like a second nature thing, but the world out there doesn't know that. And when I go to places like my hometown, like people don't know anything about tap dancing, and I need to explain, and it's a lot of explaining, and we have to explain it over and over and over again. But dealing with jazz music is the same thing. You need to know the roots, where it all came from, and the people that created it. And then you need to know the hard history. You need to talk about the painful stuff. You need to let people know. You need to let the young people know how much pain is part of this or was part of this process, still is,
Yeah.
And if we can't talk about the pain, then we can't move. We need to go through this. And I remember talking to Carnell Lyons about his pain. I was a teenager, and he would tell me stuff that happened to him when he was on the road in the South. That's why he left the United States. I mean, that was a huge topic in our discussions, because he moved to Berlin. He moved to Germany in the late 50s, early 60s, because actually right when the civil rights movement was very, very strong, and it was really hard here. He decided he couldn't handle it anymore. And he wanted to live in Europe, where people respected him, where he was an artist, and not a servant. It was just a different situation. So to me, this is all first person history lesson. I got this from firsthand, from people who suffered, people who were beat up, people who were turned back. Buster Brown, Jimmy Slide, they all gave, they all told me stories like that, and they all said, you need to know that this is what happened to us, and you need to let other people. So, I try to do that as much as I can. There's always more we need to do. I know that. And it's important to know as much history as possible, because we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us,
Yes.
Most of them Black, also many of them white, some of them Chinese, some of them, God knows, Native American Indians. Especially when you talk about jazz music and tap dance, there are so many people that that are not even recognized that were there. When I was in Japan, I saw this guy who was an amazing archivist, and he showed me and Diane Walker was with me. We were there for the festival, and he showed us all these records, these beautiful records of Japanese tap dancers recorded in the 1920s. Like there was Japanese tap dance happening in the early part of the 20th century. As soon as Americans brought jazz music over there, people started doing it, because they were into it. So, and I believe, here's what I think is the positive thing of this. I believe that the love and power that comes with this art form of dance and music, that's what's going to help heal, because we all do it because we love it, and we do it because it makes people happy. It heals people, So we need to bring together the joy and the passion and the love with the history of the pain and the truth. We can't lie. I mean, I don't think we've been lying. Maybe we haven't said enough. There is more said. There's always more to be said, but the important thing is the history. We need to know the history, and we need to teach it, and then we need to perform, and we need to perform together. And that's an ongoing conversation. That's an ongoing conversation about hiring and ratios and all this kind of stuff. It's very tricky, because also in the arts, everything is subjective. So when you make a band, when you create a company, you want to work with people who you can work with, who you can get along with, who are on your wavelength. And that doesn't depend on skin color.
Right.
It doesn't depend on skin color whether I get along with person ABC. It's about who they are, what kind of person they are, and that's just tricky. And if I have 3 people who are from Australia, and 1 person who's from Taiwan, and 1 person who's from Brooklyn, I don't know, they could all be the same skin color or not. I have to dance with who I feel comfortable with. It's a very tricky thing. I know this also from Actors Equity, because my wife is a musical theater, and they are going through all these things now with, ratios, like every production needs to have 50%, I understand and I agree, you know, this needs to be done. It's just going to be very difficult. It's going to be difficult, but it has to be done. You have to try. We have to try.
Yeah.
You know? Because
Well, Max,
yeah.
I have to say, I think you answered that incredibly elegantly, and I would agree completely. I think when people have asked me this similar question, yeah, the history is the most important thing. We need to acknowledge whose shoulders we're standing on, what their stories were. And I think you're also right. I appreciate you articulating that we in the TAP community, we take a lot of things for granted that we all assume everybody knows. That then you get in a room full of kids. You know, when I was younger, I never taught about, or rarely talked about people like Gregory Hines, or Fred Astaire, or Gene Kelly, because or Sammy Davis Jr., because I was like, oh my God, these are hugely famous people. These kids already know who they are. So I'm more interested in talking about Jimmy Slide and Buster Brown and Sarah Petronio and people like that, right? And I've learned that you can't assume that kids have ever heard of, even kids who tap dance 5 days a week, who love tap dance. It is entirely possible that somehow they've never heard of Gregory Hines.
Absolutely. Yeah,
or they don't know who Fred Astaire is. And it is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, we're going to take a 30-second break because Instagram Live is about to cut us off because it has an hour-long limit, and I hate getting cut off.
I know.
So before we get cut off, we're going to take a 30-second break. We're going to come right back. When we come back, we're going to do our 2-minute tap class and rapid riffs. So we'll have about 15 minutes when we get back. So please, everybody, join us. Max, thank you so much. I'll see you in less than a minute.
Absolutely. Bye.
All right, Mark Youngley back with the second part of my interview with Max Pollak. It has been really pretty special so far. I knew it would be. Max is one of those people who is not only such a great exemplar of our field, but is such a well-spoken member of our field. So I want to welcome back Emily and Alexander. Hey, Magda. Barbara, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate it. Hey, Hannah Lee. Hey, Susan, thank you for joining us again. I know Max will be here in a hot minute. While we're waiting, I do want to just put a couple plugs in. I want to say I'm super excited to check out the Uprooted film tonight as part of the Dance on Camera Festival. It's a documentary about the history of jazz dance. And I'm really interested. I know that they interviewed some tap dancers, which is completely logical and appropriate. I'm glad that the producers of the film chose to make tap dance part of the discussion of the history of jazz dance in America. But I definitely am looking forward to checking that out. I want to recommend that to everybody else. A reminder, I'm going to say this at the end, but we do have a show a week from today, so I'll tell you more about that at the end. Meanwhile, esteemed guest back. So we're going to be going live again. All right. So,
Hey, Mark.
Max, tell you the next two parts tend to be what people tell me are their favorite parts of Tea on Tap.
Okay.
That is the 2-minute tap lesson and the rapid reads. So Max, you have 2 minutes to teach any step, concept, or idea.
Okay.
I will be timing you.
Yes.
I don't really time you. You can take as much time as you want. All right, go.
All right. So here's this little step that I have at the end of a old traditional rumba tap combination, yeah? And it's sort of like a shave and a haircut type thing. And it goes like this. I'll show you. Okay, so what is that? I'm going step and then hop step. Yeah? In between, I hit my thigh. So I go step, hit, hop step. Yeah? And then stamp. So step, hit, ball change, stamp. Step, hit, ball change, stamp. Let's try that again. 2, 3, 4. Step, hit, ball change, stamp. One more time. And step, hit, ball change, stamp. Okay? That's the first part. That's a shave and a haircut. Shave and a haircut. Now the second part begins with a click in the air. So I'm doing like a chassé. Yeah? I'm hitting my right foot with my left foot. And my left foot with my right foot. like this. Yeah. So let's just try this for a second. Okay. So that's the sound. I land on my right foot, and then if you can, you clap below your left thigh. If you don't want to do that, you can clap up here. Yeah. And then you just put that foot down, and that's all it is. Yeah. So it's click, step, clap, down. Yeah. The rhythm is, yeah, 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2, 3. Huh? And 1 and 2, 3. Let's do that again. 3 and 1 and 2, 3. Okay. So that's the 2 bits part. Yeah. 2 bits. Yeah. Now we put it together and we go shave and a haircut. 2 bits. 2, 3, and shave and a haircut. 2 bits. One more time. 1, 2, ready. Da 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 da.
Love it. That is a perfect 2-minute tap lesson. Well done. Thank you so much for sharing that with everybody.
Yeah.
All right, it is time for rapid riffs. Max, these are 12 questions. I'm going to ask them quickly. Most of these have 1 or 2 word answers. I'm going to just say this now.
Yeah.
Yes, some of these questions are hard.
Yeah.
I will point out, as I pointed out with many a guest, I do send these questions in advance.
You do,
So, some people act like, oh, how could I possibly answer that? It's so hard. And I'm like, I literally give this to you in advance. So here we go. I believe in us.
Yeah.
Number 1, what tap shoes do you wear?
I wear Miller and Benz.
2,
Go ahead.
taps, tight or just a little bit loose?
Tight.
3, favorite song to tap dance to?
Segment by Charlie Parker. That's his only tune he wrote ever in minor key.
Ooh, nice. 4, favorite composer?
Stravinsky, Thelonious Monk, and Bela Bartok.
Love it. 5, you're in 4/4 time. Do you count in 4s or 8s?
4s.
Thank you. 6, favorite tap dancer to watch who is no longer with us?
Probably Sammy Davis Jr. Close
7.
second.
No, go ahead. You're fine. Close second was Jimmy Slide, yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
7, favorite living tap dancer to watch?
Joseph Wiggin.
8, favorite choreographed tap piece you've ever seen or done?
Gumbo Hump by Heather Cornell.
Yes. 9, what single tap performance that you've seen do you remember the most vividly? This would be something you saw live.
Gregory Hines. You know, I saw him live, many times, but every time I saw him live was like the most vivid and most ridiculous and most amazing. Because it was always like he obviously always made it up, but it really felt so original and so honest. Like he wasn't like, this was so heartfelt and so innovative. Every time he did it, it was new. So
10, you can go back in time and see any one tap performer or tap performance. What do you see?
I would guess probably Teddy Hale live, because we have so little footage. And Groundhog, that's a tap dancer that Ray Brown used to talk about. Ray Brown, when we were working with Ray, he loved tap dancing, and he always talked about Rhythm Red and Groundhog, and he loved Groundhog. Yeah. So like,
remind me to tell you my Ray Brown story really quick after. 11, what tap dance? This is a newer question. What tap dance would you most like to see added to the tap canon?
Oh, Eleanor Rigby by Michelle. That's like an instant classic. It's like Firebird. Every child should know
12. How were you taught the second step of the Shim Sham? What count do you start the second step?
Carnell did it starting on 1. But then when I came to New York and everybody was doing it on 4, and especially Buster Brown was doing it on 4, I was like, okay, start it on 4.
Yeah, right?
If I know the rhythm and I know where you are, that's fine. I can count.
Yep. So I'll tell you really quick, and then I've got to do my spiel, and I will ask you one final question. So I was lucky enough to see Ray Brown in Kansas City in the late 90s. And he did a pre-show interview on the stage with a local jazz DJ, and it was free, right? If you had a ticket to the show, you could just go sit in the house and watch the interview.
Yeah.
So of course I did. And in the last 10 minutes of the interview, they took questions from the audience, and I raised my hand and asked, would you mind talking about your experiences working with tap dancers? And I will tell you, of all the questions people asked, that was the most animated he was. And he specifically talked about working with Heather Cornell and Manhattan Tap, and talked specifically about how all the tap dancers in the company wanted to hear stories about groundhog.
Yeah.
So the fact that you said that, I love it. That's amazing. So before our final question, I need to thank a few people. I want to thank our tech guru and marketing director, Leah Koch. I want to thank our staff, Molly, Allie, Sarah, my beautiful wife, Jennifer, good friend of yours also. I want to thank the interns we've had this summer, Emily and Allie. They've been working remotely, and they have been extraordinary. Thank you so much. I want to remind you, we have classes every Wednesday. Please come check them out, 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Please, July 26th, Vimeo Live. Check out our show, 30 Feet Together, 6 Feet Apart. Tickets are available at chicagotaptheater.com. Ticket prices range from $30 to $0. So if you've been having a good pandemic and still working and able to contribute, please contribute. Please consider contributing. Otherwise, if it's been a tough period, please take the free option. We just want you there enjoying some tap dance. I want to remind you all that Heather Cornell has her amazing program, Conversations with Heather Cornell, The Masters, Manhattan Tap, and Making Music Dance. That will be next Sunday on Instagram Live at 11 a.m. Central. Then at 1:30, she'll be back for footage and discussion, and then at 3 o'clock Central is our show. So next Sunday, you could really have one heck of a tap Sunday. You can get more information. Oh, go ahead.
Usually things whenever she does them.
Yes. Yes. You can get more information at manhattantap.org/Heather Cornell Tap Dance. Sunday, I will be Thursday, I will be interviewing Roxy King on the next episode of Tea on Tap. That's going to be a fun one. She will be the youngest person I have interviewed yet. But boy, does she have a story to tell. She's been working in Brazil a lot, fallen in love with that culture. Brilliant young tap dancer. I think you're really going to enjoy that, everybody out there. And then I want to thank our music director and friend, JC Brooks, for our theme song. Thank you so much, JC. So now, Max, our final shuffle. When you shuffle off this mortal coil, how do you most want to be remembered as a tap artist?
With a New Orleans second line funeral.
Ooh. Great answer.
Please swing me home.
You got it, Max. Yeah, you said that in front of everyone, so everyone heard it. Max, that's a beautiful answer. I want to thank you not only for being a lovely guest, but being such a dear friend for so many years, as well as being a great example in the tap community. I really do appreciate you and your art so much. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and I will see you all Thursday for another episode of the Tea on Tap. Take care. Thank you, Max.
Thank you, guys. Great to see you, Mark. Thank you for having me on. Bye-bye.
Bye.